My 9-year-old daughter, Ava, was abandoned to a shady foster agency by my parents while they partied in the Bahamas with my sister's kids, leaving a chilling ransom note. Pay $50,000, 0 cents, or she's gone forever. I didn't scream. I tracked them down, and by dawn police were pounding on their villa door. My sneakers squeaked against the polished marble of the Seattle Federal Building, each step echoing like a gunshot in the cavernous lobby. My heart slammed against my ribs, a wild animal caged in my chest as I shoved past a security guard barking about clearance badges. I didn't care. Nothing mattered except the crumpled note burning a hole in my pocket, its words seared into my brain. Pay $50,000, 0 cents by midnight, or your daughter Ava stays gone. E.W. My mother's monogrammed initials, elegant as ever, signed the betrayal that turned my world to ash. And Dr. Emily Harper, 35, Chief of Trauma Surgery at Harborview Medical Center. I've stitched up gunshot wounds in the chaos of a mass shooting, held the hands of dying strangers, and made life or meth calls without blinking. But nothing could have prepared me for this. My 9-year-old daughter Ava, my North Star with her jet-black braids and hazel eyes that hold entire galaxies, was gone. Not missing, not lost, but abandoned by my own parents, Richard and Evelyn West, to some shadowy foster agency while they jetted off to the Bahamas with my sister's kids. And now someone wanted $50,000 to give her back. The elevator dinged, and I lunged inside, jabbing the button for the Child Protective Services office on the 8th floor. My phone buzzed in my hand, the screen lighting up with notifications I couldn't ignore. Instagram, of all things, had become my tormentor. There it was, a post from my sister, Claire. My parents tanned and grinning, sipping margaritas on a yacht, their arms slung around her kids, Ethan and Sophie. The caption was a gut punch. Family paradise, blessed. I wanted to scream, to hurl the phone against the wall, but I couldn't. Not yet. Ava needed me to keep it together. How did it come to this? Just 3 days ago, I was elbow-deep in a 72-hour shift at Harborview, Seattle's bloodiest ER, after a mass shooting tore through a downtown concert. The OR was a war zone, screams, monitors blaring, my hands steady as I closed a teenager's chest wound. I hadn't slept, hadn't eaten, hadn't even checked my phone. Ava was safe, I told myself, with my parents in their gated Queen Anne mansion. They'd always been cold to her, sure, but they wouldn't hurt her. They were her grandparents, for God's sake. I'd packed her stuffed wolf Luna, her star projector, and enough gluten-free meals to last a week, knowing Evelyn would forget Ava's celiac disease. I'd even overheard Dad muttering about Bahamas bookings, but exhaustion dulled my instincts. A future trip, I thought, not a plan to ditch my daughter. The elevator doors slid open and I bolted down the hall, my scrubs still stained with blood from my last surgery. The CPS office was a maze of cubicles, fluorescent lights buzzing like angry wasps. A receptionist glanced up, her bored expression faltering as she saw my face. "Ma'am, you need to sign in." "My daughter," I cut her off, my voice raw. "Ava Harper, 9 years old. She's in your system. My parents dumped her here, and I got this." I slapped the ransom note on the counter, the paper trembling in my hand. The receptionist's eyes widened, and she grabbed a phone, muttering something about a supervisor. As I waited, my mind spiraled back to Ava. She's my everything. The kid who lights up a room with her laugh, who writes poems about constellations and insists on fearless talks every night, where we confess one thing that scared us that day. Saturday mornings we'd make waffles, her giggling as batter splattered the counter. Bedtime meant stories about Orion and Cassiopeia, her star projector casting galaxies across her ceiling. She was my anchor after Nathan, my ex-husband, walked out. He's a tech mogul now, living in a Silicon Valley penthouse with his COO turned mistress, barely remembering Ava's birthday or sending the child support he owes. I didn't need him. Ava and I were enough. But my parents, they were a different kind of poison. Richard and Evelyn West, retired tech entrepreneurs who built a cybersecurity empire, always favored my younger sister Claire. Her kids, Ethan and Sophie, were their golden grandchildren, showered with VR headsets and cross-country trips for soccer games. Ava got thrift store books and excuses. Last Christmas, Evelyn forgot Ava's celiac disease, serving a bread-heavy feast and snapping, "She'll survive," and Ava poked at a plain lettuce leaf. When Ava's poetry recital came up, they were too busy, with a charity gala, but they flew to Boston for Sophie's pee-wee soccer match the next week. I'd tried to call them out, but Mom's icy dismissal, "Don't be dramatic, Emily," always shut me down. The CPS supervisor, a harried woman named Ms. Carter, finally appeared, clutching a manila folder. "Dr. Harper, we have a record of Ava being placed with an emergency foster provider yesterday. Your parents claimed legal guardianship and said you were unavailable. Indefinitely?" I nearly choked. "I was in surgery for 3 days. They knew I'd be back today. Where's my daughter?" Ms. Carter hesitated, her eyes flicking to the ransom note. "She's with a foster family, the Delgados in South Seattle. But there's an issue. The agency they used isn't fully licensed. We're investigating." My blood ran cold. Unlicensed. Shadowy. The note's threat echoed. "Ava stays gone. Take me to her, now." As Miss Carter scrambled to arrange a visit, my phone rang. An unknown number. Against my better judgment, I answered. A distorted voice hissed, "Drop the search, Dr. Harper, or Ava disappears for good. You know what we want." The line went dead. My knees buckled, but I caught myself on the counter. Who were these people? Was it just my parents' cruelty, or something darker? The note's demand, $50,000, 0 cents, felt too precise, too personal. Evelyn's initials weren't a coincidence. The drive to my parents' house earlier that morning replayed in my mind, a nightmare I couldn't shake. Westview Academy had called at 6 a.m., Ava's principal saying she hadn't shown up. I'd raced across town, still in scrubs, only to be rear-ended by a black SUV on I-5. The impact jolted me forward, my forehead grazing the steering wheel, but the SUV peeled away before I could get a plate number. Shaken, I'd reached their mansion to find it empty. Cars gone, lights off, that damn note on the kitchen island. I'd torn through the house, screaming Ava's name, until I found her room untouched, Luna still on her pillow. They hadn't even packed her things. Ms. Carter's voice snapped me back. "We're ready to take you to Ava. But, Dr. Harper, you need to stay calm. This situation is complicated." Complicated didn't begin to cover it. As we headed to the parking garage, my phone buzzed again. Claire's text. "Mom and Dad are spoiling Ethan and Sophie rotten in the Bahamas. Best grandparents ever. Family first." I stared at the words, rage boiling over. Claire knew. She had to. Her Instagram was a digital crime scene, receipts for a luxury villa booked 6 months ago, photos of my parents teaching Ethan to snorkel, Evelyn braiding Sophie's hair on a white sand beach. They'd planned this, all of them, while I was saving lives. The CPS van smelled of stale coffee and despair as we wove through Seattle's rain-slicked streets. My mind raced, piecing together the betrayal. Why the ransom? If my parents wanted Ava out of the way, why not just leave her with CPS? The unlicensed agency was a red flag. Were they involved? And that threatening call? Someone was watching me. I glanced out the window, half expecting that black SUV to reappear. The Delgado house was a sagging ranch style in a rough part of South Seattle, its peeling paint and overgrown lawn screaming neglect. Mrs. Delgado, a weary woman in her 60s, opened the door, her eyes softening when she saw me. "She's in the back," she said. "Poor thing's been quiet as a mouse." I pushed past her, my heart in my throat, and stepped onto the cracked patio. Ava was there, curled on a rusty swing, clutching Luna like a lifeline. Her braids were frayed, her eyes red from crying. When she saw me, she froze, then launched herself into my arms, her small body shaking. "Mommy, you came," she sobbed. "They said you didn't want me anymore." I held her so tight I could feel her heartbeat, my own tears soaking her hair. "I'd never leave you, baby. Never." Over her shoulder, I locked eyes with Mrs. Delgado, who shook her head sadly. "They didn't tell us you were coming back," she said. "Said she was an orphan, no family to claim her." Orphan. The word was a knife to my chest. Richard and Evelyn hadn't just abandoned Ava. They'd erased me, lied to her face, and left her to strangers who didn't even know about her celiac disease. Mrs. Delgado admitted Ava had been sick, vomiting after they fed her bread, assuming it was just nerves. My fury nearly choked me, but I focused on Ava, stroking her back, whispering promises I'd die to keep. As we sat in the Delgados' dim living room, Ava's story spilled out between hiccups. "Grandpa said you were too busy saving strangers to be my mom. Grandma said you needed a permanent break. They took me to this scary office and then they left. I thought I did something wrong." Her voice cracked, and I wanted to burn the world down for the pain in her eyes. Mrs. Delgado handed me a cup of tea, her voice low. "They didn't leave any medical info. No inhaler, no diet notes. I only found out about her condition when she got sick, and they never mentioned a mother. Said they were her guardians, end of story." I pulled out my phone, showing her Claire's Instagram. Mrs. Delgado's jaw tightened. "That's them. Dropped her off, then went to that? What kind of people do this to their own blood?" The kind who'd always seen Ava as less than. Growing up, I'd watched my parents dote on Claire, 4 years younger, their perfect daughter who followed their script. Ivy League degree, marriage to a hedge fund bro, 2 photogenic kids. I was the disappointment. Pregnant at 25, married to Nathan only to divorce him after his affair. Ava, with her unplanned arrival and difficult diet, was a reminder of my failures. They'd never said it outright, but their actions screamed it. Ethan's VR headset versus Ava's used books. Sophie's soccer games versus Ava's skipped recitals. The gluten incident at Thanksgiving, when Evelyn rolled her eyes as Ava stared at a plate of rolls she couldn't touch. Back at the CPS office, Miss Carter confirmed the worst. Richard had forged guardianship papers claiming I was missing, presumed unfit. The agency, some off-the-books operation called Safe Haven, was under investigation for trafficking kids into unregulated homes. My stomach churned. Had Ava been a pawn in something bigger? The ransom note suggested it. I handed it to Miss Carter, who promised to escalate it to the FBI. "We'll find your parents," she said. "They're in the Bahamas, but we're coordinating with local police." As we left, my phone rang again. Lauren, my friend and a federal prosecutor. "Emily, I saw your message. This isn't just abandonment. It's felony-level fraud, maybe kidnapping. Send me everything, the note, CPS records, Claire's posts. I'm calling in favors." I thanked her, but my mind was elsewhere. That black SUV, the threatening call, the break-in at my apartment last night. I hadn't mentioned it yet, but someone had trashed Ava's room, leaving a knife stuck in her pillow. No note that time, just a warning. Whoever was behind this wasn't done, and neither was I. Driving Ava home, her small hand in mine, I made a silent vow. Richard and Evelyn would pay, not just for abandoning my daughter, but for breaking her heart, Claire too if she was in on it, and whoever sent that ransom note. I'd find them. I'm a trauma surgeon. I thrive in chaos, but this wasn't an OR. This was my life, my daughter, and I'd tear the world apart to keep her safe. The rain pounded the windshield as we pulled into our building's garage. Ava was asleep, Luna tucked under her chin. My phone buzzed. Detective Ryan Carter, a family crime specialist I'd worked with on ER cases. Emily, Bahamian police are moving on your parents' villa tomorrow at dawn. We've got Claire's posts as evidence, but be careful. That ransom note? It's not your parents' style. Someone else is playing a bigger game. I glanced at Ava, her face peaceful despite the hell she'd endured. A bigger game. Fine. I'd play. And I'd win. The Harborview board meeting was a blur, their voices droning about my unexcused absence during the shooting crisis. My surgical license hung in the balance, but I barely heard them. All I could think of was Ava, safe at home with Judith, Nathan's mother, who'd flown in from Portland to help. Judith was the only family Ava had left who hadn't betrayed her, her warm hugs a stark contrast to Evelyn's cold indifference. As I left the hospital, a text from Lauren lit up my screen. FBI's on the ransom note. Prints don't match your parents. Safe havens linked to a trafficking ring. Stay vigilant. My pulse spiked. Trafficking. The word made my skin crawl. Had Ava been targeted? Was the ransom a test or a diversion? I was halfway to my car when headlights blinded me. A black SUV idled at the lot's edge, its engine growling like a predator. I froze, my hand on the pepper spray in my purse. The SUV revved once, then peeled out, tires screeching. My breath caught. It was the same one from the crash. They were following me. At home, I tucked Ava into bed, her star projector casting Orion across the ceiling. "Mom," she whispered, "are Grandma and Grandpa coming back for me?" Her voice was so small, so scared. I kissed her forehead, fighting tears. "No, baby. You're with me now, always." As she drifted off, I sat by her bed, my laptop open to Claire's Instagram. A new post. My parents laughing on a beach, Ethan and Sophie building sandcastles. Extended our stay, paradise too perfect to leave. YOLO, I wanted to scream. They knew Ava was gone, knew I was tearing Seattle apart to find her, and they were extending their vacation? I forwarded the post to Lauren and Detective Carter, then pulled up Safe Haven's website. It was a slick facade, smiling kids, vague promises of temporary care, but the reviews were chilling. Missing children, forged records, families never reunited. My hands shook as I dialed Lauren again. "This agency," I said, "it's not just shady, it's a front. Ava was lucky to get out." "Emily, slow down," Lauren said. "We're raiding their office tomorrow. The FBI's tracing the ransom note's paper. It's custom stationery, monogrammed. Your mom's initials are real, but the prints aren't hers. Someone's framing them or working with them." Framing them? My parents were monsters, but puppets too? The thought made my head spin. I hung up, staring at Ava's sleeping form. She'd been through hell, but she was here, safe. For now. The knife in her pillow, the SUV, the call. They were warnings. Someone wanted me to stop digging. Too bad for them. I wasn't built to back down. The next morning, I dropped Ava at Judith's, promising to be back by lunch. "Be careful, Emily," Judith said, her eyes worried. "This feels bigger than your parents." I nodded, hugging her, then headed to meet Detective Carter at a downtown precinct. He slid a folder across the table. "CPS records, forged guardianship papers, and a grainy photo of Richard handing Ava to a man in a suit outside Safe Haven's office. "This guy," Carter said, tapping the image, "is Victor Kane, a known fixer for trafficking networks. Your parents didn't just dump Ava, they sold her out." Sold her out. The words hit like a freight train. My parents, the tech tycoons who preached family values at gala dinners, had handed my daughter to a criminal. For what? A Bahamas getaway? Or something worse? "What's their end game?" I asked, my voice shaking. Carter leaned back. "Money, power, or both. Richard's company had ties to offshore accounts we're tracing. The Bahamas isn't just a vacation. It's a hub for their kind of deals. And Claire's posts? They're a cover, making it look like a family trip." Claire. My sister, the golden child who'd always gotten the bigger slice of love, was in on it. Her texts, her posts, her smug family first. It was all a lie. I pulled up her latest story, a video of Ethan snorkeling, Richard cheering him on. My stomach twisted. They were flaunting their freedom while Ava suffered. Carter's phone buzzed and he excused himself to take the call. Alone, I flipped through the folder, my eyes catching on a Safe Haven intake form. Ava's name, her celiac disease unchecked, her emergency contact listed as none. My parents had erased her, reduced her to a transaction. I was about to close the folder when a sticky note fell out, scrawled in red ink. "Harper's kid, priority transfer. Buyer waiting. Buyer." The ransom wasn't about money. It was about control. Carter returned, his face grim. "Bahamian police hit the villa. Your parents are in custody, but Claire and her kids are gone. Slipped out last night, private jet to an unknown destination. And Victor Kane? He's in the wind, too." I stood, my chair scraping the floor. "I'm going to the Bahamas. I need to face them." "Emily, it's not safe," Carter warned. "Kane's network has eyes everywhere. That SUV, the break-in, they're not random. You're a target." "I don't care," I said, my voice steel. "They took my daughter. They don't get to hide." As I left the precinct, my phone buzzed, a blocked number. I answered, expecting another threat. Instead, a child's voice whispered, "Mom, it's me. They're coming for me again." The line cut off. Ava. But she was with Judith, safe. Wasn't she? I dialed Judith, my hands shaking. No answer. I sped toward her house, rain blurring the windshield, my heart screaming one truth. This wasn't over. Not by a long shot. Chapter 2. Shadows of Betrayal. The rain was relentless, hammering the roof of Judith's modest Portland bungalow as I clutched my phone, the screen still dark from Ava's whispered call. "Mom, they're coming for me again." My daughter's voice, fragile and terrified, echoed in my skull, a ghost I couldn't shake. She was supposed to be safe here, curled up with her stuffed wolf Luna under Judith's watchful eye. But the call had come from a blocked number, and Judith wasn't answering. I floored the gas, the Seattle skyline blurring into streaks of neon and rain as I sped south on I-5, my heart a live wire. "I'm Dr. Emily Harper, Chief of Trauma Surgery at Harborview Medical Center, trained to stay calm when lives hang by a thread, but this wasn't a patient coding on my table. This was my 9-year-old daughter, Ava, caught in a web of betrayal spun by my own parents, Richard and Evelyn West, and possibly something far darker. The dashboard clock glowed 2:17 a.m. I'd left Detective Ryan Carter at the precinct hours ago, his words a grim warning. "Victor Kane's in the wind. This isn't just your parents, Emily. Someone else is playing a bigger game. Kane, the fixer tied to Safe Haven, the unlicensed foster agency where my parents had dumped Ava, was a ghost with a rap sheet. Human trafficking, extortion, connections to offshore accounts, The ransom note, with its $50,000 0 cents demand and my mother's monogrammed initials, wasn't their style, Carter said. Someone was pulling strings, and Ava's call suggested they weren't done with us. Judith Street was a quiet row of craftsman homes, but the air felt wrong, heavy with something I couldn't name. Her front door was ajar, the porch light flickering like a dying star. I grabbed the pepper spray from my purse, my surgical instincts kicking in. Assess, act, survive. Judith? Ava? My voice cracked as I stepped inside, the living room dark except for a faint glow from the kitchen. Luna lay abandoned on the couch, its stitching frayed from Ava's constant grip. My stomach lurched. Emily! Judith's voice, weak but alive, came from the hallway. I found her slumped against the wall, a gash on her forehead, blood trickling into her silver hair. They took her, she whispered, her hands shaking. 2 men, masks. They knocked me out. I'm so sorry. I dropped to my knees, checking her pulse, my hands steady despite the panic clawing my chest. Stay with me, Judith. Where's Ava? What did they say? I grabbed a dish towel, pressing it to her wound, my eyes scanning for clues. A shattered lamp, scuff marks on the hardwood, a faint smell of cigarette smoke. None of it Judith's. They said, tell the doctor to stop digging, Judith rasped. Something about a deal going south. They had Ava's backpack, her star projector. She was crying, Emily. I called 911, my voice clipped as I relayed Judith's condition, then dialed Carter. They took Ava again, I said the second he picked up. Judith's hurt. 2 men, masks, at her house in Portland. Get here now. Carter's voice was taut. I'm dispatching Portland PD and FBI. Emily, don't move. This is Kane's M.O. Retaliation. Where are you? Judith's place. Hurry. I hung up, helping Judith to the couch, my mind racing. The ransom note, the black SUV that rammed me, the break-in at my apartment with a knife in Ava's pillow, and now this. It wasn't random. My parents' betrayal, abandoning Ava to safe haven while they partied in the Bahamas with Claire's kids, was just the surface. Kane, or someone higher, wanted something from me. But what? As paramedics arrived, I stepped outside, the rain soaking my scrubs. A glint in the grass caught my eye. A silver keychain, monogrammed with E West West. My mother. It wasn't here by accident. I pocketed it, my fury a white-hot blade. Richard and Evelyn were in Bahamian custody, but this keychain, dropped hours ago, meant they'd planned deeper than I knew. Were they working with Kane? Or were they pawns too? Carter arrived with a swarm of Portland cops, their flashlights cutting through the dawn. We found tire tracks. Same tread as the SUV that hit you, he said, his face grim. FBI's tracing the blocked call. It pinged from a burner near Safe Haven's office. Emily, this is bigger than abandonment. Kane's network deals in kids, high-value targets. Ava's celiac condition, her poetry. They market unique kids to buyers. My knees buckled, but I caught myself. Buyers? You're saying my parents sold her? Not sold, not yet, Carter said. But they handed her to Safe Haven, knowing it was a front. The ransom might be a distraction, or a test to see if you'd pay. We're raiding their office today, but Kane's slippery. And Claire, she's gone dark, no trace since she fled the Bahamas. Claire, my sister, the golden child who'd posted selfies with Ethan and Sophie while Ava was left to rot. Her Instagram was a curated lie. Mom and Dad spoiling the kids in paradise. Family first. She'd known about Ava, had to. Her silence was complicity. Her texts blaming me for ruining their vacation, a slap in the face. I pulled up her latest story, deleted now, but I'd screenshotted it. Richard teaching Ethan to dive, Evelyn braiding Sophie's hair. all while Ava was told I didn't want her. The caption, "Extended our stay, paradise too perfect, YOLO." YOLO, while my daughter was stolen. Carter's radio crackled. Suspect vehicle spotted, black SUV heading north on I-5, possible match. My heart leapt. "I'm coming," I said, grabbing my keys. "No, Emily, it's too dangerous," Carter snapped, but I was already running to my car. "She's my daughter. Try stopping me." The highway was a blur, rain slicing across my windshield as I tailed the police caravan, Carter's warnings ignored. My phone buzzed. Lauren, my prosecutor friend. "Emily, FBI's got something. The ransom notes paper matches stationery from your dad's old company, Westech. It's discontinued, rare. Someone with access forged Evelyn's initials, and Safe Haven's linked to a shell company in the Caymans. Westech's name is on it." My parents' cybersecurity firm, sold years ago, was still casting shadows. "They're in custody," I said. "How's this connected?" "Someone's using their old network," Lauren said. "Kane, maybe, or a bigger player. We're pulling Westech's financials. Stay with Carter. He's your best shot." I hung up, my eyes on the flashing lights ahead. The SUV was cornered at a rest stop, surrounded by SWAT. I parked, ignoring Carter's shouts, and crept closer, my pulse deafening. Through the rain, I saw her, Ava, in the back seat, her braids pressed against the window. She was alive. But a man in a ski mask held a gun to her head, his voice barking demands over a megaphone. "Back off, or the kid's done." Carter grabbed my arm. "Emily, we've got snipers, don't move." But I couldn't just stand there. I slipped free, inching toward the SUV, my pepper spray ready. The second man, unmasked, was Victor Kane. Sharp jaw, dead eyes. He spotted me, smirked, and raised his gun. "Dr. Harper, should pay." A shot rang out, not from Kane, but from a sniper. He dropped, clutching his shoulder, and chaos erupted. SWAT stormed the SUV, the masked man surrendering as Ava screamed. I ran, shoving past officers, and yanked the door open. Ava flew into my arms, sobbing, "Mom, I knew you'd come." Her star projector was clutched in her hands, its plastic cracked but still glowing faintly. As medics checked Ava, Carter pulled me aside. "Kane's alive. Talking. Says your parents cut a deal with Safe Haven to relocate Ava. They got a payout, $100,000, 0 cents, wired to a Cayman account. But Kane's boss, someone he calls the broker, wanted Ava for a private buyer. The ransom was a side hustle." My vision tunneled. My parents, the people who'd raised me, had sold my daughter for pocket change, and the broker, whoever he was still out there. "Where's Claire?" I demanded. "Gone," Carter said. Her jet landed in Miami, then vanished. She's either running or involved. We're tracking her. Ava's therapy with Dr. Lisa Bennett had been my lifeline before this second kidnapping. Lisa's journaling exercises helped Ava pour out her fear, her poems raw with pain. They left me in the dark, said you didn't care, but I saw your star, Mom, shining everywhere. Now, as we sat in the ambulance, Ava whispered, "They said you'd never find me." But I told them you're a superhero. I held her tighter, tears burning my eyes. She was my hero, not me. Back at Harborview, the hospital board was circling like vultures. A ransomware attack had crippled our systems, delaying surgeries, and whispers blamed my distraction with Ava's case. My promotion to director was on ice, a whistleblower leaking my family scandal to the press. Surgeon Mom's Bahamas betrayal rocks Seattle. Claire's doing, I was sure. She'd always known how to twist the knife. Her latest text, sent before she vanished. "You're tearing us apart, Emily. This is on you." But the community rallied. Ava's teacher, Ms. Larson, launched a star project. her classmates writing poems about her courage. Ava's words light up the sky. Judith, Nathan's mother, became our rock, hosting stargazing nights where Ava traced constellations, her smile returning. Even the Delgados, the foster family, sent a card. "You're a family now. Call us any time." Nathan, my ex, resurfaced, demanding custody. "Ava's not safe with your crazy family," he said, his tech bro arrogance unchanged. I laughed, bitter. "Where were you when she was kidnapped? Oh, right, yachting with your mistress." He backed off, muttering about family values, but I wasn't done. Lauren was building a case against him for unpaid support. A small victory in this war. The Bahamas raid had gone viral, hotel guests posting videos, grandparents busted for ditching grandkid. Family failed. Richard and Evelyn's defense was pathetic. Richard claiming Ava's special needs overwhelmed them. Evelyn sobbing about a misunderstanding. Carter's evidence crushed them, forged guardianship papers, bank transfers. Claire's posts proving premeditation. They took a plea, 12 months probation, 200 hours community service, mandatory therapy. But the real punishment was social. Their tech world friends shunned them, their legacy tarnished. Family therapy with Dr. Michael Grant was a battlefield. Richard broke down, admitting he'd punished Ava for my choices, my pregnancy, my divorce, my failure as their daughter. Evelyn clung to her perfect grandma facade, dismissing Ava's trauma as childish. But Ava, brave beyond her years, faced them in court, reading her poem. "You left me in the dark, but my mom's my star. I'm enough, even if you can't see." The judge, Eleanor Hayes, tore into them. "Your deception caused irreparable harm. You're lucky it's not prison." The final blow came during a supervised visit. Richard, frustrated by Ava's silence, grabbed her arm, snarling, "You're making this harder than it needs to be." Ava's panic attack was instant, her screams piercing. I tackled him, pinning him to the floor. My surgical precision, now a mother's fury. "Touch her again, and you're done," I hissed. The therapist ended the session, and Ava's trust in them shattered for good. Claire's apology came too late, a hesitant call from an unknown number. "I didn't know how bad it was," she said, her voice small. "Mom and Dad said Ava was fine. I should have checked." I didn't soften. "You chose their lies over my daughter. Fix it with actions, not words." She promised to try, but I wasn't holding my breath. The case exploded nationally, dubbed the Bahamas betrayal. I declined interviews, shielding Ava, but the truth was out. My promotion to director was confirmed, my crisis leadership undeniable. Ava's 10th birthday was a triumph, a galaxy-themed party with Judith, Lauren, the Delgados, and Ava's friends, her laughter brighter than any star. We started new traditions, monthly camping trips, roasting marshmallows under the Oregon sky, Ava pointing out constellations with Judith's telescope. But questions lingered, hooks that kept me awake. Who was the broker, and why did he want Ava? The ransom note's prints didn't match my parents'. Whose were they? Claire's disappearance? Was she a victim or a player? The attacks on me, the SUV, the break-in, the kidnapping, were they Kane's last stand or the broker's warning? And Ava's poetry, raw and haunting, hinted at memories she hadn't shared. Would they unlock the final piece of this puzzle? As Ava slept, her star projector casting Orion across her ceiling, I sat by her bed, my hand on hers. We'd survived betrayal, kidnapping, and a system that failed us. True family. Judith, Lauren, the Delgados. Wasn't blood, it was loyalty, love. The people who showed up when the world burned. I'd face down monsters for Ava, and I'd do it again. The broker was out there, but so was I, and I was ready.